The items of our agenda today is address by the chairman of the occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to invite Professor Abdul Qadir Usman Junaidu to take the stage and address us as the chairman of today's occasion. A renowned expert in his field.
In fact, I've known Abrazak since 1970. So I think I'm very good enough to tell who Abrazak is. He's a very committed person in whatever course he has set for himself. And the establishment of this center from student days to date and the caliber of personalities has engaged in the development of the center attest to the fact that he knows what to do and the right way to go about it. This center is very important in assisting the nation in the control of drug abuse. The consequences of drug abuse, as we all know, is very, very enormous. And looking at the fact that amount of resources are wasted as a result of drug abuse. For instance, in 2024 alone, drugs worth billions of naira were seized by NDLEA, out of which 16.6 billion were intercepted in Lagos. 31.7 million opioids were also seized in Lagos. All in all, about 7,561 seizures, tons of seizures were made of drugs in between 2021 and 2024. This is in spite of the 100 billion naira spent by the government and over 40 million US dollars as donations from international donors. Yet the problem still persists. So this is an indication that we are in a real mess. And unfortunately, only about 40% of high-risk drug users have access to treatment. This is due to inadequate facilities and other supporting measures. And the legal capacity to prosecute the offenders is very low, as about 18% only of all the cases were prosecuted. So this shows to you some of the challenges faced by NDLE and other agencies associated with the control of drug abuse. And unfortunately, majority of these drug users are youth, and 25% of them are women. 1 out of every 4 drug abuse cases involves women, and unfortunately, including some housewives. In recent years, over 50,901 arrests were made and 9,034 cases were prosecuted. But still, it continues. In a nutshell, we have approximately 14.3 million Nigerians, representing 14.4% of the population between the ages of 51 and 65 that are engaged in drug abuse. And this is a critical public health concern to every stakeholder. There are several reasons why we have these cases of drug abuse. Majorly, unemployment is a contributory factor to these problems. And unless we address the real issue, we cannot run away from this crisis. We have all what it takes to ensure that we keep our people busy. If we look at agriculture, we have 84 million hectares of arable land in the country, but only 40%, about 33 million, were utilized for these purposes. If we can be able to harness all these lands with all the resources, 70% of Nigerians will be having jobs to do. We have the mineral resources which can create 5 million jobs annually, but we're not utilizing them. So this crisis that unless we address them, will continue to generate lot of drug abusers. Even the fuel that we have, with about 37 billion barrels of crude oil reserves and 187 trillion cubic feet of gas, apart from the gold, limestone, and other mineral resources, Nigeria should not be poor and should be in a position to generate employment opportunities in our country. Regrettably, we don't do that, either to lack of political will or some policy programs that we create that are not favorable to the growth and development of our country. Nigeria has 264 universities, federal, state, and private. Maybe there are more than that now. We have 120 polytechnics and monotechnics, 152 colleges of education. And in every year, 500,000 graduate from the Nigerian universities, 200,000 from polytechnics, and 300,000 from colleges of education. This is not including those like nurses, midwifery, and other related institutions. So we have over 1 million graduates every year, and less than half of them, or 1/4 of them, get jobs to do. We have 18.3 million out-of-school children as of 2024 in Nigeria. If you add that number, you have over 20 million that have decided to go to school. Some were denied, but they are there remaining jobless. Every year, we have over 2 million people seeking admission into Nigerian universities, and less than 500,000 gets admission into Nigerian universities due to lack of space and adequate facilities. This year alone, 2024, 1,985,642 people applied through JAM to get admission into Nigerian higher institutions. I'm pretty sure less than 600 or 800 will gain admission, leaving over 1 million youth stranded. Now, if you look at this wider implication, where do you expect this youth to go? We'll be in crisis because continuously we'll be churning out students. They have no job to do. Continuously, some are dropping out of school. They have nowhere to go. And we keep blaming parents for not sending their children to school. When you have a graduate son who has been there for 10, 20 years without job, as a poor farmer, how do you think you can spend your money for taking your time to go to the farm to ensure that you sponsor other children when they will come back and become jobless? We need to widen our scope of educational foresight to include more of skills acquisition. With the vast of land we have, even in my own case, when we talk about livestock, where we have over 20 million cattle, 94 million sheep and goats, poultry and others, we can gainfully employ many of these youth to get engaged in businesses that can create jobs and other opportunities for the youth. Unless we address this, the issue of banditry, the issue of kidnapping, and other social vices, which are mainly caused by drug abuse, will continue to exist in our society. This effort by the center is part of solving the problem of sensitization, which they have been doing for the last 25 years. But you can see that they have made an impact, but that impact is not adequate enough to curtail such crisis because the real issue has not been addressed by the government. The center cannot be able to address such issues because it is not in their domain. So I call on the government to consider these issues that I've raised, to see how they can come in and address some of these issues so that our society can be free from drug abuse and also have a sense of belonging in the community of nations